From hidden gems that once rumbled across fields to engineering marvels that quietly faded into history, some American combine harvesters remain elusive legends. Well, today we're going to count down the 10 rarest American combine harvesters of all time. Machines born in the 1900s, still captured on film, yet seldom seen in modern fields. Now let's shift gears and dive straight into the lineup. Number 10 is the Minneapolis Moline G4. The Minneapolis Moline might ring a bell for folks fond of classic Midwestern machinery. Famous for their yellow tractors, they also had a foray into self-propelled combines, including the G4. Introduced around 1960, this model was a modest attempt to stand toe-to-toe with the bigger manufacturers. Some sources, such as period-correct brochures and farming journals of the era, note that the G4 was powered by a 220 cubic inch four-cylinder engine that delivered about 50 horsepower. While that might sound small in today's terms, it was enough muscle for a typical Midwestern grain farm in the early 60s. Because Minneapolis Moline never reached the mass production heights of companies like John Deere or International Harvester, far fewer G4s rolled out of the factory. Its grain tank hovered around a 40 to 50 bushel capacity, which was reasonable at the time, but quickly was overshadowed by other brands that chased larger capacities and higher output. The G4's design was relatively straightforward. Some could even call it rugged, boasting a simple threshing mechanism and easy access for routine servicing. Now, despite its dependable nature, the G4 wasn't exactly a star seller. Equipment fans often lament that the company's reputation was cemented in tractors, leaving their combines underappreciated. As a result, not many G4 units survive or show up at farm auctions today, making it a rare sight indeed. You can still find a few dedicated collectors who hunt for these machines, sometimes restoring them to full working condition. Online vintage farm equipment groups occasionally feature proud owners that demonstrate a G4 in a local parade or farm show, living proof that this humble harvester can still spark a nostalgic grin. In the grand scheme, the G4 represents Minneapolis Moline's attempt to stay competitive in a turbulent era of agricultural innovation. It reminds us that not every combine that once prowled American fields got the spotlight it deserves, making it a perfect candidate for our rarest of the rare list. Number 9, the Oliver Model 40. Next up, we've got the Oliver Model 40, a self-propelled combine that made its debut in the early to mid-50s. If you ever have seen that distinctive green paint, you know the Oliver machine stood apart visually. They're also part of American farm lore because Oliver was a major innovator before being absorbed into a larger conglomerate. The Model 40 is particularly rare because it landed at a time of big shifts in the farming industry. Major players were emerging, technology was accelerating, and the race for higher capacity combines was on. The Oliver 40 was roughly mid-sized for its day. Period documentation suggests it typically used a 6-cylinder Waukesha engine, which offered enough power to tackle small grains and occasional corn harvests. Its grain bin capacity was respectable, somewhere in the ballpark of 40 to 50 bushels, though by no means revolutionary. What made the 40 a standout, at least to collectors now, was Oliver's emphasis on build quality. The machine was sturdy with a threshing mechanism that farmers praised for gentle handling of the grain. One reason it's so scarce today is that Oliver didn't have the market coverage enjoyed by John Deere or International Harvester. The Model 40 wasn't produced in huge numbers, and many farmers who did own them eventually traded up to bigger or more modern combines as the 60s rolled in. Unfortunately, the 40 ended up being scrapped, parted out, or left to rust in the back corner of barns once it got deemed too small for growing farm operations. Yet for those who remember using it, the Oliver 40 conjures images of a simpler time. Skilled operators could still keep these machines running efficiently with routine maintenance. And there are still a handful of videos and photos floating around online, featuring the 40 in parades or on small-scale family farms. As a result, it remains a beloved underdog from the golden age of Midwestern farm equipment. A perfect piece to fill our rare combine roster. Number 8, the Allis-Chalmers Gleaner A. Now, before the Gleaner brand became synonymous with silver-sided machines, it began as the Baldwin brothers' brainchild in the early 20s. Allis-Chalmers acquired Gleaner in 1955, but even before then, the Gleaner A was making quiet waves. Introduced around 1951, though production details vary by source, the Gleaner A was one of the brand's self-prepared combines that signaled a shift from pull-type units to more advanced operator-friendly designs. The hallmark of Gleaner machines, an all-aluminum threshing and separating system, carried over here, making the Gleaner A notably lighter than some of its steel-clad competitors. This lighter weight meant less field compaction, a bigger deal than many realized at the time. It typically came with a small but reliable engine, often in the 40 to 50 horsepower range. While that may seem modest, it did allow the combine to chug along effectively on small to mid-sized acreage, especially in wheat and small grains. Now, production volumes for the Gleaner A weren't sky high, and these machines often ended up overshadowed when Allis-Chalmers fully took over and introduced more modern lines. Many farmers viewed the Gleaner A as a stepping stone. Once bigger and better models arrived, these early self-propelleds were retired and then sold off. Consequently, spotting a Gleaner A in operation today is like catching a glimpse of the farming world in transition, from old-school methods to post-war mechanization. Though not as well documented as later Gleaner models, like the hugely successful K, F, or M series, you can still stumble upon promotional films from the 1950s that showcase the Gleaner A's capability. For fans of agricultural engineering, it's an important milestone in the Gleaner story, one that bridged the gap between the brand's pioneering pull-type machines and the more advanced high-capacity harvesters that came to define Allis-Chalmers Gleaner. That's what makes the Gleaner A a rare treasure for vintage machinery buffs, and a rightful spot in our countdown. Number 7 is the John Deere Model 55 Roundback. Now, when you think of John Deere Combine, you might picture the iconic green behemoths of modern fields, but the company's self-propelled journey truly kicked off with the Model 55. Launched in 1947, the Roundback version was the earliest iteration, earning that nickname thanks to its distinctive curved rear body panel, later replaced by a squarer design in the 1960s. The Model 55 Roundback was, by all accounts, John Deere's initial big leap into self-propelled harvesting technology. Powered by a roughly 6-cylinder gas engine, often touted around 45 to 50 horsepower, the Roundback was moderately sized. It typically had a grain tank capacity in the range of 40 to 50 bushels, which was adequate for the era's smaller farm operations. But still, it quickly found a loyal following. Farmers appreciated John Deere's parts network and the combine's straightforward mechanics. It was easy enough to service and robust enough to handle wheat, oats, and soybeans with minimal fuss. But why is it rare today? Well, partly because these early Roundbacks were prime candidates for scrap or conversion once John Deere began rolling out improved versions, like the Squareback Model 55 or the 95 or 105 series in the 60s. Many owners simply traded the old Roundback for something with greater capacity. Given that this model was a trailblazer, it often worked beyond its intended lifespan, toiling in fields until it was thoroughly worn out. Naturally, fewer Roundbacks survived into the collector's market. And even so, you can catch glimpses of the Roundback on vintage tractor show circuits or in dedicated online farming forums. Enthusiasts who've restored them say they hold a special charm, like a relic that captures John Deere's turning point from pull-type binders to fully self-propelled systems. It's a testament to how Deere shaped the future of harvesting, all wrapped up in that unique curved rear panel. Number 6 is the International Harvester 403. International Harvester's legacy in combine development looms large, but the 403 stands out for a few specific reasons, and it's one that's increasingly hard to spot in the wild. Part of IH's X03 series launched in the early 1960s, the 403 was introduced around 1962 and positioned as a mid to large conventional combine of its time. Its bigger sibling was the 503, which drew much of the attention, leaving the 403 often overlooked by mainstream buyers. The 403 typically housed a 6-cylinder engine, delivering somewhere between 80 to 90 horsepower. With that horsepower, the combine could handle corn, wheat, and soybeans decently, sporting a grain tank capacity of about 60 bushels. What truly made it special was International Harvester's continued push toward user-friendly features, like better cab comfort and simpler adjustment points for threshing and separation. Though comfort is relative by today's standards, for the early 60s it was a notable selling point. Yet sales numbers didn't skyrocket, because many farmers either went for the smaller 303 to suit modest acreage, or jumped directly to the 503 for added capacity. The 403 found itself welded between two more popular models. Over time, as newer lines like the 715 or the famed Axial Flow series arrived, these older conventionals were phased out quickly or traded in. With parts becoming scarce, many 403s ended up cannibalized to keep other machines going. Despite this, you'll find archived ads and promotional films lauding the 403's efficiency. When properly maintained, it harvested clean grain and offered IH's hallmark durability. Today, a functioning IH-403 is a bona fide collector's item. Vintage equipment meetups occasionally feature a proud owner that demonstrates how, even decades later, the 403 can still glean a row or two. That resilience and its middle child status in IH's lineup make it a fascinating chapter in harvester history, and a prized rarity for those who love old red iron. Number 5 is the New Holland TR70. Harvesting fans often point to New Holland's TR70 as a revolutionary step in combine engineering. Launched in 1975, it was the world's first commercially successful twin-rotor combine, a bold departure from conventional cylinder and concave designs. Developed at New Holland's Pennsylvania headquarters, the TR70 promised better threshing performance and higher grain quality by gently processing crops between two counter-rotating rotors. This concept would ultimately shape the future of many modern combines. However, the TR70 wasn't an instant bestseller. Early production models had teething issues, from rotor balance problems to wear points that manifested faster than expected. While New Holland refined the design with subsequent models like the TR75 and the TR85, the original TR70 was sold in relatively low numbers. Farmers were also unsure about adopting a brand new rotor concept, preferring to stick with more proven machines in the mid-70s. As a result, the TR70's short production run and initial reliability hiccups contributed to its relative rarity today. Under the hood, you might find a Ford-built 6-cylinder diesel engine rating about 145 horsepower, enough to do many small to medium acreage operations. The grain tank capacity hovered around 100 bushels, decent for the era. But what truly set the TR70 apart was its gentle grain handling. Many operators who embraced twin-rotor technology raved about reduced grain damage and cleaner samples. Nonetheless, these first-gen twin rotors demanded diligent maintenance, particularly because so many components were brand new designs. Today, the TR70 is cherished by those who appreciate innovative leaps. Searching online, you can find occasional videos of these machines still in use, often lovingly maintained by dedicated owners who respect the pioneering spirit. Now, while subsequent New Holland twin-rotor models refined the concept and sold in bigger volumes, the TR70's place in harvesting lore is assured. It was the machine that introduced twin-rotor tech to mainstream agriculture, and that alone locks in its status as a rare American legend. Number 4 is the John D. 3300. If there's one phrase that defines the John Deere 3300, it might be the little combine that could. Introduced in 1972 as part of Deere's 00 series, which included the 4400, 6600, and 7700, the 3300 was the smallest of the bunch. Geared primarily towards smaller farms, it often came outfitted with a gasoline or diesel engine rated around 75 horsepower. Tiny compared to the 6600's bigger power plants. Though the grain tank capacity hovered in the 60 bushel range, that was enough for farmers running modest acreages of wheat, soybeans, or oats. One reason the 3300 is such a rarity today is simply because John Deere's main customer base leaned toward larger operations. Farmers who needed serious harvesting muscle gravitated to the 4400 or beyond. The 3300's limited production run left fewer in circulation, and once they aged, owners often consolidated or scaled up to bigger machines. If you added a 3300 in the barn, you may have been among the smaller scale producers who carefully balance costs and capacity. Despite its diminutive stance, the 3300 offered many of the same design cues and features found in its bigger siblings. A similar cab layout, albeit simpler, a reliable threshing system, and the robust dealer support that John Deere was famous for. That made it an excellent choice for part-time farmers or those in regions with smaller field plots. A number of orchard farmers and specialty growers also picked it up, as it maneuvered more easily in tight spaces. Now these days, the 3300's small footprint and lower horsepower create a unique charm. Enthusiasts who unearth one in decent shape can restore it without the same heavy lifting required by a bigger machine. Scrolling through online forums, you'll spot folks proudly showing off a 3300 resurrected from a fence row, marveling at how well it still shells corn or cuts wheat. For those who value classic Deere engineering packed into a compact form, the 3300 holds an undeniable nostalgic pull, a reminder that farming once catered to operations of all sizes. Number 3, the Gleaner N7. When Alice Chalmers, under the Gleaner banner, launched the N Series in 1979, it was their foray into the rotary combine revolution. The N7 in particular was a top-tier offering, boasting one of the largest threshing rotors available at the time. Powered by a hefty 426 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine from Alice Chalmers, the N7 delivered upwards of 200 horsepower, a staggering figure for the day. Farmers with big acreages saw it as a chance to boost productivity, if everything worked smoothly. Yet the N7 is often labeled a rare beast now, partly because it earned a reputation for mechanical gremlins. Early models grapple with reliability issues, particularly rotor balancing, overheating, and sometimes complicated drives. These quirks often required patient tweaking, and not every farm had the time or dealer support to handle that. Now, competitors like International Harvester, with its axial flow, and John Deere, with its Titan series, were refining their rotary or hybrid designs simultaneously. eating into Gleaner's potential market. Now still, the N7 could devour massive swaths of wheat, soybeans, or corn when dialed in correctly, and many owners claimed it was unmatched in capacity. The machine's aluminum body design, a Gleaner hallmark, kept weight down, which was beneficial for field compaction. Even so, production numbers never soared to the level of the more mainstream Gleaner models like the M2 or L2. The N7's top-of-the-line status, accompanied by a higher price tag, ensured that it was only a fit for certain growers. Today, finding a functioning N7 is akin to striking gold if you're a fan of vintage combines. Online videos document a handful of these behemoths still thrashing away on family farms that held on to them, or on a show circuit, where enthusiasts love to fire up that big Alice diesel for the crowds. Among Gleaner aficionados, the N7 stands as a testament to daring engineering in a competitive era, an ambitious design that left an indelible mark on the shift from conventional to rotary harvesting. Number 2, the White 8800. Now, White Farm Equipment was formed when White Motor Corporation bought Oliver, Minneapolis Moline, and Cockshutt in the 1960s, rolling them into one brand. During the consolidation, White produced a number of combine models that merged various engineering insights. Among them, the White 8800 emerged in the mid to late 70s. This machine rated somewhere from 130 to 150 horsepower and aimed to compete with mid-sized offerings from the giants. We're talking John Deere, IH, and New Holland. But despite good engineering, the 8800 didn't flood the market. White's combine division lacked the sprawling distribution networks that its larger competitors enjoyed, and farmers were somewhat cautious about investing in a brand that was undergoing so many corporate transitions. Add in the farm economy challenges of the 1970s, and you're going to end up with relatively low production numbers for the 8800. Those who did buy it often praised its reliability and straightforward design, noting that the combine was easier to maintain than some of the more complex rotary systems coming into play. Now, it typically featured conventional threshing with a cylinder and walker separation system. While not as high capacity as some rotary counterparts, it handled small grains, soybeans, and even corn with decent efficiency. Its cab comfort was also notable for that era. White made an effort to incorporate user-friendly controls and better visibility. The result? A combine that some might argue was underrated. Now, over time, as White's farm equipment line got absorbed or discontinued, the 8800 quietly faded from the market. Parts availability became tricky, pushing many farmers to retire them. Nowadays, you'll see a few 8800s still rummaging around in the hands of collectors or maybe a small-scale operator who kept it alive for the thrill of running something different, and footage of the 8800 in action surfaces occasionally on social media, accompanied by sentiments like, "They don't make them like they used to." Now, this resonates with those who recall the old Oliver and Minneapolis Moline DNA that once thrived under the White badge, making the 8800 a poignant piece of American harvesting history. And number 1, the International Harvester 1482 pull-type axial flow. Now, topping our list is a truly unique entry from International Harvester's famed axial flow family, the 1482 pull-type combine. By the early 80s, IH's self-propelled axial flow combines, models like the 1460 and 1480, were making waves with their rotary technology, superior threshing, and straightforward design. But many people forget that there was a pull-type version that was built for farmers who either preferred or required a tractor-powered harvester. That alone sets the 1482 apart in terms of rarity. The 1482 essentially packed the axial flow's rotor and separating system into a pull-type shell, letting a sufficiently powerful tractor handle propulsion. According to period literature, it was similarly sized to the 1460, capable of respectable throughput in wheat, barley, and other small grains. The advantage? Well, farmers who already owned a solid tractor could just invest in rotary technology without spending a premium on a self-propelled machine. For operations with smaller fields or maybe steep terrain, particularly out west, this was an attractive proposition. However, production numbers were quite limited. Self-propelled combines were already dominating the market, and most farmers chasing rotary performance opted for the all-in-one package. The 1482 was something of a niche product, leading to low sales, and because it was made in small batches, parts and service support for the pull-type rotor mechanism didn't match the robust network that accompanied the flagship self-propelled axial flows. Today, discovering a functioning 1482 is like uncovering a hidden gem in the combine collector's world. You may catch glimpses of them online, maybe at a farm auction or in dedicated IH enthusiast forums. It's a machine that simultaneously captures the spirit of the axial flow revolution and the bygone era of pull-type harvesters. For that reason, and the sheer difficulty of finding one in good shape, the 1482 stands as our number 1 rare American combine harvester, a testament to IH's willingness to innovate, even for specialized markets, and an enduring piece of mechanical heritage that merges practicality with cutting-edge, for its time, design. Hey, these forgotten farm giants have left an indelible mark on American agriculture. They remind us of a time when innovation and elbow grease combined to reshape the harvest season. Brands battling for that top slot, and farmers testing new machines in fields across the country. We hope you found the video helpful, or maybe enjoyed the nostalgic stroll through the mechanical past. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, hit that like button. And hey, if you don't want to miss more deep dives into classic gear, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.